Clint Arthur is here, business expert, author of 21 Performance Secrets of Donald Trump and what they teach you at Wharton Business School.
If this was going to be the last year of your life, what would you want to accomplish?
Let me introduce you to the man that taught me.
With me now to break it down, leadership and performance expert Clint Arthur.
This is our new best friend here, Clint Arthur.
Clint Arthur.
Clint Arthur. Clint Arthur, who made a living off of teaching other people to be better public speakers.
NASDAQ, what an honor to be with you here today.
Business expert and best-selling author of Speaking Game.
Clint Arthur.
Clint, take it.
If you want an audience to be engaged, it helps if you entertain them, and you need them to be engaged if you want to be a great leader. Holy cow! Energy comes off as confidence.
Just do what he says.
The marketing of what you do is 100 times more important than what you actually do.
Bring in Clint Arthur.
The first step to getting people to give you money is to have them pay attention to you. Everybody thinks they know how to speak because they've been talking their whole lives. Yeah. But that doesn't make them a pro. I make 7 figures a year just by talking. And if people would just play the speaking game when they talk, they would have more fun, make more money, conquer their fear of public speaking, and have more impact, influence, and income. It's the bomb. Speaking led me to what I do now, helping other authors, speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs to make their dreams become their reality. Invest in yourself and in a mentor. Accept the challenges so that you can feel the exhilaration. Bam!
You guys want to hear more? Head to Clint Arthur TV.
You are too much. I love it.
Amen. All right, everybody. Welcome to your weekly Celebrity Entrepreneur Mastermind, coming to you live from Acapulco, Mexico. Let's see. I think I'm gonna do this. I think I'm gonna stop this share. There we go. And I'm going to go to a Zoom blur, background blur. There we go. Actually, I'm gonna go to this, okay? Because we're gonna be having a celebrity expert spotlight interview very soon in this mastermind, because Maddie is going to be doing a practice warm-up rehearsal event with me, and we're going to go through her story and try to record it this time. We've already gone through it. We did a dry run about a week ago, but for some reason the Zoom did not capture her. So this week it's going to happen. So I'm going to keep up the celebrity expert spotlight background because I'm doing a rehearsal recording with Maddie for her celebrity expert spotlight interview in Houston, which is coming up really soon with Joel Osteen on the 14th and the celebrity expert spotlight stuff on the 13th. And we're going to have a dinner. Oh my God. Allie found us a James Beard award-winning restaurant, and we are having a super gourmet deluxe dinner there. And I'm really, really excited about it. I'm going to have the fried chicken. They are famous for their fried chicken. There's going to be a steak on the menu. There's going to be a fish dish on the menu. But I hear that they are famous for the fried chicken, and that's what I'm going to have. You know, when I was in Dallas, Texas last week, I had dinner at my favorite steak restaurant there 2 nights in a row. And I had 2 delicious steaks, but when we're in Houston for this, if there's a restaurant that's famous for fried chicken, that's what I am getting. Fried chicken. Because, you know, it's really important to get what people are good at. There's a zone of genius. That's what this is all about. How do you get into the zone of genius? How do we get you into your zone of genius? And how do you take advantage of other people's zone of genius? And if the restaurant chef his zone of genius is fried chicken, you know that that's what I'm having. So that's just a word to the wise. Now, you know, when you come here for the workation, we take a nice chunk of the workation to go after selfies, because I make a lot of money on selfies. I use my selfies to make lots of money. I make these $2 million magazines out of selfies. This wasn't a selfie. This was a professional photo, but you know, there's a lot of great selfie photography here. These were both selfies. Me and Grant and me and Tony, the celebrity entrepreneurs. These were both selfies, and they make me a lot of money. But I always say It's not the money in the bank. It's not the houses. It's not the dream cars. That is the great things about celebrity entrepreneurship. Those are all great things. But it's the personal transformation. It's what you get and become on a personal level that is so wonderful about celebrity entrepreneurship, how it transforms you, how it matures you, how it expands your capacity, how it makes you be more, do more, and have more as a person. That's what I always say. And that's what I love about the selfie photography, because our friend Susanna, who manages our property down here, she gave Allie a birthday present today. It's a beautiful silver frame. I'm going to stand up so you can see it, right? She gave her this beautiful silver frame. And I don't know, let's see what I can do here. Does this help? Hold this? I don't know. Maybe I got to take off the background. I got to stop the blur background that I just put on, and I'm going to go to no background. There we go. So here it is. She gave her this beautiful framed photo of us as a birthday present. It's a beautiful present, I really got to say. But, you know, this is a photo that I took. This is a selfie photo that Clint took of us at sunset here at the villa. I mean, this is like, you know, there's certain photos in your life that become like the classic photo, right? You know, this is that photo. I mean, look at that freaking gorgeous photo. It almost doesn't even look real. This kind of reminds me of our wedding photo when we were at the resort in Santa Barbara for our wedding. I think I have that one here. It doesn't even look real. And this one is kind of like that. So anyway, I just think that if all I got out of these thousands of selfie photos that I've taken over the years with the biggest celebrities in the world, some of them, if all I got out of that was this picture, I think that was worth it. You know, the preparation for this photo. And
yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it really does. It's an amazing photo. And unretouched. It looks really awesome. So this is what I'm talking about when I say that it's not the houses, it's not the money, it's not the cars, it's who you become. That is the real benefit of celebrity entrepreneurship. That's what it's really all about. And I became the guy in the photo. I became the guy who took the photo. I became the guy who created the life with that wife in the photo. I became the guy who created that sunset. I became all of that from celebrity entrepreneurship. And I don't know how else you're going to be able to achieve those kinds of personal growth things from Facebook ads. I don't think so. You're going to get those kind of personal growth things from doing Facebook Lives. I don't think so. Are you going to get those kinds of personal growth things from making TikTok videos? I don't think so. So there you have it. All right. Now we are getting close to our event in Houston with Joel Osteen. And as long as I see that a bunch of you are going to be there, as long as I've got you on here, you should be arriving at some point in the daytime on the 12th, which is Friday. And then we're going to have a cocktail party at about, I think it's 8 o'clock that it's scheduled for. It should be 8 o'clock. And it's going to be cocktails from like 8 to 10, 10:30, networking cocktails. Then we're going to meet in the lobby at high noon on Saturday, the 13th. And we're going to do the celebrity expert spotlights. There you go. The celebrity expert spotlights. We're going to do those interviews. We're going to go to a studio. We are paying a lot of money to rent a studio in Houston. And it just so happens to be walking distance from our hotel. Everything is walking distance from the hotel. So please stay at the recommended hotel. That's why we picked it. Everything is walking distance. So we're going to do our celebrity expert spotlight interviews on Saturday afternoon. We'll probably start around 12:30 and they'll go as long as they need to go. We have plenty of time booked. And then there will be the dinner on Saturday night at the James Beard award-winning restaurant, where they have the famous fried chicken, which I'm getting. Not that you have to have the fried chicken. You don't have to have it if you don't want it. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do, but I'm getting the fried chicken. And then on Sunday morning, we're going to be starting early. We're leaving at 8 o'clock. I think that's what I said. Whatever I said, whatever Ali said in the email, that's what we're doing. We're starting early in the morning. And there's actually going to be a lot of stuff going on with Joel Osteen starting early in the morning and going until about noon. So from 8 to noon is going to be Joel Osteen experiences. And then we're going to a barbecue, and that barbecue should be over by 2:30, and you can leave for the airport at 2:30. Okay, that's the plan. And it's going to be super fun, and it could and should very likely change your life. I know these experiences with Joel have changed my life, and there's a real chance that your life is going to change in a profound and unexpected way on Sunday, the 14th also. Does anybody have any questions about Houston and the things we're going to be doing in Houston? You do, Linda. Yes. What's your question, Linda?
I know you're going to be interviewing us. Is there something we should be doing to prepare for that interview?
Okay. Well, I tell you, we could do a dry run with you later on too. I'll do a dry run with Maddie, because I've already done a dry run with her over on an audio interview, on an audio coaching session earlier. What is the purpose of this celebrity expert spotlight? The celebrity expert spotlights, and that's an excellent question. The celebrity expert spotlights are an opportunity for you to, first of all, most importantly, tell stories. What do speakers do? I had a call yesterday with a prospect. Remember, I told you guys I was doing some LinkedIn marketing, and many of you have been receiving the automated messages that the LinkedIn marketing system is sending out, right? So I've been working with this LinkedIn marketing system for over 2 months, almost like 2 months and a week or something like that. And I had my first actual prospect yesterday on a phone call, my very first one. So took me more than 2 months to get a prospect out of LinkedIn marketing. Maybe I'm just stupid. I don't know, whatever. I'm working with a firm. They know what they're doing. So anyway, this lady, she was telling me how, she is a pretty accomplished speaker. She doesn't feel like she needs any help or guidance with speaking. And I said, well, then maybe you'd like to speak at the NASDAQ stock exchange. And she goes, well, I'd have to really think about what I would want to say there. Okay. Now, that tells me right away that she knows nothing about being a speaker. Really, she knows nothing about being a speaker. And that she's not very successful as a speaker. And that she really needs a lot of help and guidance as a speaker. And I basically told her that. I tried to be as diplomatic as I could, because if you are going to have 5 minutes to speak at NASDAQ, which you guys are, what should you be talking about? You should be talking about, you should definitely try to hit your 3 top most important stories. That should be your 5 minutes. If this was going to be the last speech of your life, what would you want to talk about? That's the way you need to look at every speech that you do. Every speech. Because every speech you do very well could be the last speech of your life. And therefore, if this was going to be the last speech of my life, I'll tell you what I would want to talk about. I would want to talk about how I found out that my father wasn't my real father, how I ended up being a taxi driver and the Wharton taxi driver as a result of that. And then years later, I ended up at the men's self-help campfire And the shaman said to me, you don't know it yet, but you're already dead. Those are my 3 top stories. And I would expand those 3 top stories into about 3.5 minutes of my 5 minutes. And then I'd have a little interstitial material to drive my point home. Okay, but if you're giving me 5 minutes at an important venue, I know what I'm going to talk about. I know what my 3 top stories are, and that's what you should be talking about. Now, for those of you who have already been to Acapulco and have done the story inventory in the pool, you know what your top stories are. For those of you who haven't been to Acapulco and been in the pool, Linda, were you in the pool doing the story inventory? Okay. Now, how many stories did you write down?
Probably close to 70.
70. And then I had you pick out the most important ones. And then I had you put stars around the 3 top ones, right? Okay, well, now you're a diamond, so you're going to be speaking at all of the venues, the Beverly Hills Chamber of Commerce, the New York Academy of Medicine, and NASDAQ. You know what your top stories are. And I suggest that you probably want to have all of them, pieces of them, in each of those appearances that you're going to do. The Celebrity Expert Spotlight is an opportunity for you to play around with your stories.
Hey, where are you today after the bar? I stay in New York.
The Celebrity Expert Spotlights are your opportunity to start playing around with stories. And I don't want to lead you through that interview. I'm going to be like, wow, today on the Celebrity Expert Spotlight, we've got Linda Shively, and she's the best-selling author of Boom. And Linda, thanks so much for joining me on the Spotlight. And then you're going to just go right into it. Just go right into it. Maybe I'll ask you one leading question, but this is really an opportunity for you to play around and work with your stories and your storytelling to create an interview video. That's your marketing video. This is your marketing video. What should ideally you get out of this? Ideally, you're going to give the listener, the audience, some insight as to how your adversity became your advantage, how your woe became your win, how your mess became your message. Any one of those things will work. And you'll see, we're going to do this with Maddie, and Maddie's going to do a great job. And then if you want to try one later on, we could do one for you too. How's that sound, Linda? All right, good. All right. I mean, we've already done them. I've already see like Kevin Freem has a Celebrity Expert Spotlight interview. Amy Duffy has a Celebrity Expert Spotlight interview.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we could do one with Michael D too, because he doesn't have one. Right? I'm pretty sure he knows what to say. But all of this stuff, look, and what else should be in your Celebrity Expert Spotlight? Well, I'll tell you what, I always like to put in, how I went from being a taxi driver, and then I love to drop in. Now, when I was interviewed by Brooke Shields on the Today Show, I love to put that in. See what I did there? There's TV and a celebrity. Boom. When I was interviewed by Brooke Shields on the Today Show, she said to me, Clint, you talk a lot about being comfortable outside of your comfort zone. I said, yeah, life begins where your comfort zone ends. And she said, ooh, that sounds scary. And I said, when it's scary is when it's great. And that's the amazing thing is like, I've done a lot of scary things. Like when I wrote the 7-figure check to buy my first big mansion in Acapulco, that was scary, but that was one of the best things that ever happened to us. Really changed our whole lives, the trajectory of everything. It made us able to have this photo, I became this guy in the photo, and I'm pretty proud of that guy in the photo, honestly. But really, that's the amazing thing is that, when you have a good question you know, like Tony Robbins, one of my favorite celebrity entrepreneurs. He says, if you want to, what you want, I think he says, if you want to have a better life, you need to ask yourself better questions. I think he says that or something very close to that. I haven't said that line in a long time. But that question, if this was going to be the last year of my life, what would I want to accomplish? That question was a great question. That's like the best question I ever asked myself. That question right there took me from, first of all, I hadn't written a word in over 8 years, and now I've got 21 best-selling books. And I've told you all many, many times that having a best-selling book is essential for celebrity entrepreneurship. Having many best-selling books, working with best-selling books as one of your tools for celebrity entrepreneurship is essential. But also, that question took me to my highest achievement in my life, which was getting on the Today Show. You know, that was my big goal, to get on the Today Show so that I could share my unique message. And the most amazing thing happened for me after I got on the Today Show. The next morning, I woke up after partying New Year's Eve with Allie in New York City and watching the ball drop in Times Square and all the confetti and Anderson Cooper on the stage, getting my selfie with Anderson Cooper and dancing to New York, New York. You know, like, I don't know if you've ever been to Times Square for New Year's Eve. It is really an incredible experience. I highly recommend doing it at least once. And when it is New Year's Eve and the ball drops, they start playing Frank Sinatra, New York, New York. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. And everybody's, I was dancing with Allie and everybody's dancing and singing. It's really quite an exciting and fun thing. And the next morning I woke up after drinking the night away. We're out till 1:30 drinking, having fun. And I woke up and I said to Allie, you know what? I think I'm done drinking. And that was over 9 years ago. And it's one of the great, that's really a true 100% great accomplishment of my life, was to stop drinking and achieve total sobriety for over 9 years. And that came from that question, because that question took me to the Today Show, and the Today Show took me to the peak of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is self-actualization. And when I was self-actualized, when I made my unique contribution by sharing my unique message on the biggest TV show in the world, that's when I had the internal power to just stop drinking. That's the power of asking yourself great questions. So there you go. There's the stories, you know, those are the stories you want to hit. I want to hit all those stories, and you probably do too. So look, that's a nice little preamble. Why don't we get into Maddie? Maddie, are you there, Maddie? Can you unmute and can you come on video?
I'm here.
All right, there we are. The youngest member of the $1 Million Business Accelerator. Yeah. Maddie Duffy. So great to have you on here. And your book, what do we decide? Is there a title for your book yet or not? Do we have a working title?
No, we haven't talked about it yet.
Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Okay, well, here's how this spaghetti spotlight is going to go. No, the celebrity expert spotlight interview is going to go like this. All right. Hey, everybody, this is Clint Arthur. And today on the Celebrity Expert Spotlight, I'm joined by Madigan Duffy. And Madigan and her mom, Dr. Amy Duffy, MD, are collaborating on a book, which is really, really special. And it's based on your real life experiences. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, Maddie?
So the book is about my time in the hospital, and it's kind of just me and my mom telling both sides of our own stories while that was happening.
It starts out kind of in the back of a police car. Is that right?
It gets there, definitely.
Why don't you tell us about that part?
So, when I was taken from the ER to the actual mental hospital, they had me put handcuffs on and get put in the back of a cop car for my safety. The handcuffs, they were soft, and the guy was actually pretty nice, but it was still scary.
What was
And
it like? Was that your first time in the back of a police car?
Yeah, first
Oh,
and
that's good.
only.
That's good. Why don't you tell us about what you were thinking or feeling when you were in the back of that police car?
It was pretty scary back there. I couldn't hear him at all, and like it was just weird to like be driving down the road, and then the cars in front of us would move over every time we got behind them. And so it was kind of it was a little nerve-wracking. I didn't know what he was doing to show that we were there.
That's really funny. I've been in the back of a police car. I never noticed the cars moving away in front of us. So everybody has their own types of experiences.
Yeah, it was a long drive.
Yeah, then what happened when the police car finally got to the destination? Then what happened?
They walked me in, and I kind of went into this little like office area, and it was like they had a couch for me to sit on. So I sat on the couch, and they asked me to remove my jewelry and asked if they could take a picture of me for my file, which I saw my file the whole way throughout my time there. I saw that picture so many times, but I'd never got the jewelry back.
Never got your jewelry.
No, we called a couple times too, but I never got it back.
And let me ask you this: when you got to the institution, how did you feel about it? Like, did you think you were in the right place at the right time?
No, I didn't. I think looking back, I can see why I went there, and like that it was good for me to have gone because I feel better now. But going there, no, I don't think it ever felt right the whole time I was there.
Did you regret asking them to put, because you were the one who said you wanted to go, right?
Yeah, yes. And I didn't like it there, no.
You didn't like it. You regretted your decision.
Very quickly, probably as soon as the cuffs got put on.
I imagine so. It wasn't what you expected. Look, there's so much in life that's like that. We have the vision, we have the imaginary ideas about what something is going to be like, and then there's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think it was going to be like?
I have no idea. I don't know. I didn't really have expectations of what it was gonna be. I just felt like I needed to go there. Just, I don't know why. But it was probably different than I could have expected, no matter what.
What was the worst part of your experience? You were there for how many days?
6 days. I was there for the minimum amount of days allowed.
Okay, and what was the worst experience that you had in there?
Well, there was a lot. But one of the kids we had this door, and on the other side of the door were kids there for other reasons other than just suicidal thoughts, and the only button was behind the nurse's desk, and a nurse wasn't sitting there at one moment, and one of the kids from the other side jumped over the desk to our side. It was pretty scary.
So a kid from the boys' side jumped over the desk into the girls' side.
Yeah, it wasn't just boys and girls over there. We were just girls who had suicidal thoughts, but on that side it was a mix of both, and it was homicidal and schizophrenia and stuff like that were all on that side, but none of us experienced those feelings.
And when that kid jumped over the desk, then what happened?
Well, it cured us, probably. We all ran pretty far away from him in fear of our lives, so that's ironic.
Yeah, you went there because you wanted to take your life, but then when somebody else wanted to take your life, suddenly you didn't want to give it away anymore, did you?
No.
Well, that's really great. And I do appreciate so much your vulnerability in talking about this. And I know that your goal is to help other kids. You want to talk about that a little bit, why you're concerned about that or why you're doing this?
I just want everyone to be okay and happy. But I don't know. I never really had a book to read or person to listen to that was giving me tips on how to do other than therapists, which is hard to listen to what they tell you to do. But I want to be that for some people out there who might have experienced similar things to me.
If there was one key piece of advice you could give to a kid who was thinking about hurting themselves or taking their life right now, what would that piece of advice be?
I'd say probably like get up and stop whatever you're doing right at that moment and like just go for a walk around the house or outside. Just don't do anything right then and try to take your mind away from it.
Very good. I'm not a person who goes to AA meetings, but I do know a lot about AA because I wrote a book with a guy who was a big AA guy. And I know in AA, they talk about it as 1 day at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 second at a time. Sometimes it's just that much that makes all the difference. And I guess that's pretty much what you're saying is like, just try to make it through right now and change your environment and change your perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, great. Well, we're all excited to read your book, and I'm sure everybody's excited to see you speak and tell your story. And thanks so much for joining me here today, Maddie Duffy, on the Celebrity Expert Spotlight.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
There you go. That was a 6-minute interview on the Celebrity Expert Spotlight. That's how it goes. Okay. And, the goal is for you to tell stories. And that's why I asked you some of those questions. What I want you to understand, Maddie and Linda and everybody, is that, as a celebrity guest on a show or on a stage or on TV or on a podcast or in any interview, the goal is to tell your stories. So don't feel shy about launching into the stories. That's why you're on the show, to tell your stories. Please don't feel shy. Please don't feel like you have to wait for the host to ask you questions, especially on my show. I'm happy for you to just launch right in. And I want to say one more thing about that. And that is, I was just a guest on a podcast 2 nights ago. It was in India. You might have seen it posted on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on YouTube. I posted it everywhere that I could. It was a really good interview with this guy from India. And he said to me as we were doing the pre-interview, he said, "How you doing tonight, Clint?" It was 9:30 at night, my time, and it was like 8:30 in the morning in India. And I said, "I'm doing pretty good." And then I said, "No, you know what? I'm doing fantastic." And you know what he said? He goes, "Now you sound like a real celebrity entrepreneur." And I want to encourage everybody, like there's a chapter in my best-selling Pulitzer Prize nominated book, Wisdom of the Men, about Fantastic Frank.
I just listened to that chapter today.
I'm telling you, as celebrity entrepreneurs, when I ask you, how are you doing? You should say, I'm doing fantastic, because that's what celebrity entrepreneurs are supposed to be. It's not just, if you're a celebrity entrepreneur, it's not good enough to just be doing pretty good. It's not. Every single one of us is doing amazing compared to the rest of the world. And when we are asked, how are we doing? We celebrity entrepreneurs are doing fantastic. And, that will help you with everything that you're doing, because it'll definitely put you in the right frame of mind, because it will remind you of Fantastic Frank, who, 33 years ago, I was trapped in a fire, carried out in a body bag. Today, I am motivating and inspiring millions. And that's his legacy. He's continuing to motivate and inspire us, the celebrity entrepreneur community, and in turn, through the meta effect, he's continuing to inspire and motivate millions through us. Just because when we begin an interview by telling somebody that we are doing fantastic, what a difference it makes. It really, really does. So I really want to recommend that everybody adopt that philosophy, because it was super, super helpful for me. And I really didn't notice it. The guy goes, "No, you sound like a real celebrity entrepreneur." All right, good. Madigan, before we move on, do you have any questions, or what do you think?
No questions.
No questions.
I feel good.
You feel good?
Yeah.
Hey, how about some feedback? Let's get some feedback from the other celebrity entrepreneurs on the call. Kevin, what did you think of Maddie's first Celebrity Expert Spotlight interview?
I thought it was good. I thought it was authentic. I think the biggest thing, and it trips everybody up, Clint, is ending up on every sentence, every really major part. That's the thing I would say.
Yeah, she doesn't know. She doesn't even know about that part yet. So, maybe you want to like, all right, she doesn't even know what you're talking about, ending up. All right. So you will notice now that he's mentioned it. Okay. I didn't want to say anything, but now that he's mentioned it, you will notice that in general, when I'm talking, I end up. The tone of my voice goes up. Whereas
hopeful.
Yeah, it just sounds more up.
Okay.
You're not losing energy.
Yeah. Most Americans are ending the sentences down.
Because they meant that. They're the air pilot controller. You're
The air
coming
traffic
in,
controllers.
yeah, you're coming in flight 740, come in on runway A, comply. It's totally robotic. Clint has another thing about robots, but that's a whole nother thing. But end up, you sound a lot different when you have some really cadence to your voice and you end up. And even if it's something sad about, I was born 4 weeks premature and I was dead on arrival. But my mama said, "Oh, I don't care if it's a girl or a boy. I just hope it has all its fingers and toes." Well, at least I had all my toes. It's a cadence. It's ending up. You can do it sad. You can do it happy. You can do it, straight out.
But you can only do it if you're thinking about how you're saying what you're saying. It's the only way you can do it. If you're thinking about what are you going to say next, then you will have a hard time ending up. That's the whole thing. Now that we brought it to your attention, Maddie, like the beautiful part of it is that like you're not scripted. That's good. You're talking about something that you care a lot about. I don't have to tell you what it was like. You're the one who was there. You know what it was like. How long ago was it?
5 years.
5 years ago. But I bet it seems like almost yesterday.
More or less. It's been a long time.
Yeah. But it's still fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Describe the room that you were in for those 6 days, your bedroom or whatever. Describe it for us.
Well, it was like a cement slab with just a towel on top. And we had the mirrors were like serving dishes, like metal serving dishes screwed into the wall. And then all the handles were flat on the doors.
Good. Now, those are great details. And when you're trying to get back into the moment, when you're trying to really feel the experience, which is, see, I had a mentor one time and he would tell the same story. Every time he would tell the same exact story about how he was driving along the road and his friend was driving along the road, and it was in this third world country, and they didn't have good road signs like you would have in the United States. And they got to this point, they were going like 80 miles an hour, and there was a hairpin turn, which should have been 15 miles an hour. And they couldn't make it, and they went screeching off the edge of the road, flying off the highway, and the car flipped over and landed bouncing and rolling, and then the windshield was smashed, and he climbed up on through the windshield to get out of the car, and there he was standing on the hood of the car with his blood dripping down from his arm and pooling on the hood of the car. And he saw the blood, and then he noticed in the blood was the moon reflecting in the pool of blood. And he looked up at the moon, and there was the man in the moon. And it was almost like the big guy looking down at me from heaven, saying, "Here you go, kid. You got a second chance. You got life's golden ticket, a second chance." And the guy would tell that story every single seminar. And I asked him one time, how do you tell the story so powerfully? I mean, he would seem like he was going to cry every single time. I didn't do that story justice because it's not my story. And I know this is the first time I ever told that story. And he said, that's a good question. He goes, because I'm never telling the story, I'm reliving the moments. Write that down on a whole page. Don't tell the story, relive the moments. And how do you relive a moment? Well, for him, he would remember the broken glass, the rough edges of the broken glass, and the blood on the car of the Jeep, on the hood of the Jeep. For me, when I'm telling my story about New Year's Eve on the boat, when I'm counting the money out of my shoe, out of my sock, I always look for the one telltale sign that helps me to get back into the boat. Now, when I was living on the boat, there was my bed was in the front of the boat, in the V berth. The front is like a V. And it was a big mattress in the V. And right where you would hop up onto the mattress, there was a light on the ceiling. And it had a teak wood ring around it and a little brass ring and like a headlight cover of the bulb. And on the side of the teak wood was a little brass toggle switch to turn the light on or off. And whenever I do that story talking about counting my money on New Year's Eve of the millennium, the first thing I always do is I look for that light switch, because that gets me back into the boat. So when you're telling your story about the institution, you should be looking around the room of whatever room you were in for that story and find a detail that really brings the story to life in your own mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Very good. All right. Who else has a comment for Maddie? Who else has a comment? Go ahead, Linda.
Maddie, when you were in Acapulco and you shared your story, it was incredibly powerful. And I think you started kind of in the middle of it, of what was going on. And that, I think, would make it even more powerful as you're telling it. Like getting like what Clint's saying, get back into it and just like completely be there as it was happening, as opposed to like stepping out and talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You have that powerful story within you. It was fantastic today, and when you told it that time, it was magical.
Thank you.
Yeah. Remember, write this on a whole page. Stories are about moments. That's why I wanted you to talk about being in the back of the cop car. Okay. Tell us, and here's the story formula. What happened? Tell us what happened. And then, what did you say? And then, what did they say? Because there's always going to be somebody else in the scene, generally. And then, what did you think? And how did you feel? And if you tell us those 5 things, what happened? What did you say? What did they say? What did you think? And how did you feel? That's the basic outline for a great story.
Awesome.
All right. And the more stories you can tell, look, I know the tendency is to want to give information, but really what we want to hear are stories. And no matter what the host of any show asks you, if you just go into the story and tell them what happened and what did you say, not tell me about what you said, but tell me the actual dialogue. What happened? I went home to get the attaboys after I graduated from the Wharton Business School. And instead of it being a love fest, my parents got into the biggest argument of all time. My dad stormed out of the house, and I'm sitting there in the living room and on the couch next to my mom. And I turned to her and I go, you know, Mom, the way he resents you all these years, have you been cheating on Dad? See, that's exactly what I said. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, where did that question come from? I never even thought that question before. And then I'm thinking, wow, how did I get to be so rude that I could ask my own mom a rude question like that? That's the rudest thing I ever said to anybody. And then I'm thinking, why ain't you answering the question? And then she said, he's not your real father. Your real father was a doctor at the fertility clinic we went to for 6 years, trying to have you. And you look just like that guy. Say what? Not only didn't I know who I was anymore, I sure as heck didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up anymore. So next day, I called up the investment bank on the 87th floor of #1 World Trade Center. I got the vice president on the phone. I said, sir, I decided I don't want to be an investment banker anymore. And what did I do? Naturally, I ran off to Hollywood. See? What happened? What did I say? What did they say? What did I think? How did I feel? Now, when I say, how did I feel? I didn't say I felt this way or that way. I said, say what? I showed you how I felt. All right. Let's go to Linda Shively. Let's have Linda Shively do a celebrity spotlight interview. Linda, what's the name of your book?
I don't have my own book at this point.
You don't have a book?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I mean,
I have a chapter of a book that I started many years ago, but
look, you got your
I have
outline.
best-selling books, but I've been contributors to.
Okay, well, what's the most recent one?
The most recent one, what was it? Expert Stories was the one with you, and then
Expert Stories. Okay, great. At the Harvard Club of Boston, right?
Mhm.
Okay, good. And
then the other one was Driven to Courage.
okay. But your whole thing is about joy.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So here's what your expert spotlight is going to be something like. All right. So we'll see how yours goes. All right. All right. Hey, everybody, it's Clint Arthur, and welcome back to another episode of the Celebrity Expert Spotlight. And on today's Spotlight, I'm joined by Linda Shively. She's a best-selling author in the book Expert Stories at the Harvard Club of Boston. And Linda, thanks so much for joining me today on the Spotlight.
Thanks, Clint. Great to be here.
Hey, now your whole thing is joy. How'd you get to be an expert on joy?
Back in December 2005, I had to make a tough decision. I had to figure out how to escape an abusive marriage with my severely handicapped 3-year-old daughter, Jessica. Jessica, she's a bright-eyed, happy little girl who loves books, stickers, playing with her friends, and going to preschool. She also has a condition called spinal muscular atrophy, which is a progressive neuromuscular disorder that affects her ability to crawl, walk, swallow, and even breathe. And with the strength of her index finger, she's able to zoom around in a power chair and express exactly what she wants with her animated eyebrows. I cannot move my eyebrows like she can move her eyebrows. And she brings me so much joy. My marriage, on the other hand, keeps me on high alert. I never know when he's going to explode. I do what I think needs to be done, but that's never enough. And no matter what I do, I second guess myself and doubt that anything I'm thinking or saying is going to do anything right. I don't believe what I'm saying. I don't believe my own thoughts anymore. And one Tuesday, I look at her nurse and I say, you pack all her medical equipment. I'm going to pack her clothes and her toys. As soon as she wakes up from her nap, we're going to escape. After a flurry of activity, Jessica wakes up, we load the van, and we take off. Exactly 2 weeks later, 2 days after Christmas, I hold Jessica in my arms as she takes her last breath and dies. From that moment on, I struggle. I struggle to see any kind of future for myself. And I remember what a friend of mine told me when Jessica was first diagnosed, that it doesn't matter what happens to you, it's what you do with it that matters. And I realized I have a choice. And I didn't want to stay stuck in that horrible place. Nobody would have blamed me if I did. But I got help. And I started to grow and learn and realized that that joy that she brought to me, I can continue to share with others, which is why I have developed my whole business around spreading that joy to other people.
Fantastic. Look, there are 2 ways to begin a story, and only 2 ways that you should ever begin a story. The first and best way to begin a story is with a character in crisis. That's why in James Bond movies, what happens is, or Mission Impossible movies, we see the caper, the heist, and all of a sudden the heist goes wrong. And now James Bond is being chased by 1,000 guys on skis with machine guns slung over their back, and they're chasing him down the hill. And that's the initiating action of the story. Okay, that's the first and best way to begin a story, with a character in crisis. The next best way to begin a story is with a revealing unusual character revelation, an unusual character revelation. Now, you kind of began this, like the unusual character revelation for you would be, my daughter Jessica was 3 years old.
I say that she was 9 days short of her 4th birthday when she died.
Okay, so
yes, 3 is easier to say than that.
yeah, my daughter Jessica was 3 years old, and she could she could race around the house and had such mobility, all with just the strength of her little finger. pushing the levers, the joystick of her power chair, because she was afflicted with whatever the name of that disease is. But she was so happy and so joy-filled. And I'll tell you what, I could never in a million years hope to be as expressive with my eyebrows as she was with hers. Oh boy, could that kid make an impact on a room just with her eyebrows. See, that's a fascinating character revelation. That's really great. I'll never forget the day. It was, what was the day that the final thing, the final straw happened?
December 12th.
I'll never forget the day, December 12th, 2000, whatever. And what happened? Tell me what happened. That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
The straw that broke the camel's back was before that.
Okay. What was the straw that broke the camel's back?
The straw that broke the camel's back was when I leaned over to take care of my daughter. He threw a package of frozen food at the back of my head.
Why did he do that?
He was mad. I was mad. And he didn't know how to handle it. And I knew that it was just going to continue to get worse.
Okay. And what happened after? What did you think when he hit you in the head with a pack of frozen food?
How am I going to get out of here? How am I possibly going to leave with a daughter who needs absolutely 100% care when I am not working? What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? How do I actually leave?
Okay, great. And what did you say to him?
And why am I in a marriage with somebody that tells me he doesn't care about me, and yet this is supposed to be a marriage?
When he hit you in the back of the head with the frozen food, what did you say?
Honestly, I don't even know if I said anything in that moment. I might have.
What did he say?
Perhaps I blocked it. I don't actually remember the dialogue that went on.
If you knew what he said, what do you think he said? He had to say something after he threw a pack of frozen food at your head. And what was it? What was the frozen food? Tell me that. What was it? A TV dinner?
It was like the tortillas or something like that.
It was like a package.
So here's the back of the story. He was opening a new package, and I said, "Oh, there's a package already opened," and I tossed the package on the counter next to him. And I turned around to finish taking care of her. And then he proceeds to throw the package at the back of my head.
Okay, so it wasn't frozen food. It was a package of tortillas.
But it was frozen.
Frozen tortillas. Okay, good. See, it really makes a big difference. Okay.
Or do you want me to tell you the story about, well, the tea is heating up in the microwave and he wouldn't, and I said, "Oh, why don't you give me a hug?" "Well, the tea's heating up." "Oh, I don't want to give you a hug. It would ruin my whole day."
Oh, that's good. Okay, so look, this is what I would say. This is how I would do your story. I would, first of all, not let the facts get in the way of a great story. And I would say, I'd say that part about her eyebrows. That night, my husband and my daughter and I were all in the kitchen, and he opened the freezer to get a package of frozen tortillas out of the freezer. And it was a brand new package. And I said, "Don't use that one. use this one. It's already open. I had already taken out a package of frozen tortillas and it was on the table. So I took the package and I tossed it over towards him on the table. And then I turned back to my daughter and continued to feed her dinner. And the next thing I know, he put the package, I heard him go beep, beep, beep. And he put the package that I had tossed onto the counter into the microwave to thaw them out. And as I was feeding my daughter some applesauce or frozen or peas or whatever you want to say, as I was spooning some peas into her mouth.
She doesn't eat. She has a feeding tube.
Okay.
I could say I was giving her feeding tube, feeding her through her feeding tube or something.
Okay. What were you feeding into the tube?
Well, I was probably sectioning her rather than feeding her at that particular moment, but yeah.
Okay. As I was suctioning her feeding tube, or however you want to say it, I said to my husband, why don't you give me a hug? And he said, why would I do that? That would just ruin my whole day. And the next thing I knew was thud right on the back of my head. He had tossed the package, the other unopened package of frozen tortillas. He had just thumped me on the back of the head with the frozen tortillas. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. He went out to get a pack of cigarettes. And I said to myself, I just can't keep doing this. And I turned to the nanny and I said, look, you go pack her clothes. I'm going to pack her toys and my stuff. You pack an overnight bag and we're getting out of here. And now you can take it to your escape. Does that make any sense?
I know I'm not supposed to let facts get in the way of a good story. I had to plan a hell of a lot more than that in order to make it happen. But yeah.
It may sound impulsive, but I have been planning this. You can say that.
Yeah.
It may sound like this was impulsive, but I had been in this marriage for all these years. And you know what? I can't say that I hate him or that I blame him. The stresses of caring for a special needs child are so immense, you cannot imagine it if you haven't done it. There was a time that we had love, but that time had long since gone. And I had been planning this escape for almost a year. And that's why I knew exactly what to tell the nanny. And I didn't even have to pack a bag because my bag was already packed. My point is that we got to look, there's two ways to start a story. One is with an interesting character revelation. I think the eyebrows count. And then the second is with a character in crisis. But we got to get the moment. You got to get the moment. You can't just tell us all this stuff. Nobody cares about information. The only thing people care about are stories. They just want to hear stories. And I think that's where yours should go.
Okay.
Okay? Good. All right. Well, look, it's 7:04. I appreciate everybody staying long on this. I hope everybody enjoyed it. This is what we do, my brothers and sisters. People say, what goes on at these workations? You know what mostly goes on is we talk a lot about stories. Why? Because stories are free. And you'd be amazed how much time you spend talking to people every day. And instead of telling information, if you were telling stories, you'd be amazed at how much more impact, influence, and income you were going to have in your life. You got to get great at telling stories. You got to tell great stories. And the material for the great stories comes from your own life. As one of my great mentors of storytelling, Frank McCourt, said to us as little kids when we were in Stuyvesant High School, he says, you got to talk about what you know. And what do you really know except for your own life? These stories of your own life, you know the details. Don't be afraid to switch them around. I'll tell you a secret, Linda. You know, you've heard me tell my taxi cab story. On New Year's Eve of the millennium, in the back of the cab, there were these two guys who were MBA interns at Goldman Sachs. Well, I used to not put that part in. And I was being coached by this guy at a speaker training one time. And he goes, you know, and I would say, and there I was on New Year's Eve of the millennium, and I earned $513. And at the end of the night, I went back to my little boat and I pulled the money out of my sock and started to count it up. And he goes, whoa, 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 whoa. We need a piece from the taxi. We need a little story about what is it like to be a taxi driver on New Year's Eve of the millennium. So can you just tell us a little story about being a taxi driver? So I went into my story inventory. I thought back, and really it happened just like that. And I remembered the time that the two MBA interns were in my car, and one of them said to the other, hey, did you hear about Mr. Carrera? They made him the last partner right before the Goldman IPO, and he cashed out $100 million. That's what they said. And I turned around and I said, hey, are you talking about Chris Carrera? And the guy said, how do you know Mr. Carrera? Really, that's really what happened. Now, it didn't happen on New Year's Eve of the millennium. It happened at some point around, like somewhere in that time of my life. That's in that time of my life is when it happened. I really don't know when it happened. I couldn't tell you if it was within a month, a year, or maybe 4 years. I don't know. I don't remember, but it was in that period of my life that it actually happened. And I just took it and I put it into New Year's Eve of the millennium in the backseat of my cab. And that changed the whole story. But it's a real detail. I just moved it. And you can do that with your stories. And if you use your real stories and the real details from the stories, like the frozen tortillas, I mean, I've never even seen frozen tortillas personally. Never had them, never used them, never seen them. Now, I could tell you that maybe like a story of mine might have frozen bagels, okay? Because those I've seen. We haven't had them very often in my life. But I do, if there was going to be any kind of frozen food and it had to be a frozen bread, I would say it would be a frozen bagel. You see, it's different. And these little details are what make the stories come to life and make them three-dimensional for you, the storyteller. And that's what really has to matter. You need to stop telling us information and you need to tell us stories. Okay? All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up, everybody. And, you know, I'm reminded about what somebody said. You know, one of my friends is a mutual friend of Paul Nebb. You guys all know Paul Nebb, America's hero. Times Square's hero of the year, Paul Nebb. And this guy calls me up one time. He owns a website called selfgrowth.com. And he calls me up and he goes, you know what, Clint? I finally figured out what you do. You make people's dreams come true, because that's what you've done for Paul Nebb. And that is what we do. That's what me and Ali do. We help people to make your dreams come true. And that's what I'm looking forward for you. Good night, everybody.